Welcome to Flashpoint, the Fire Inside podcast, featuring leadership and team-building principles designed to ignite your inner fire. Now your host, international speaker and best-selling author, Frank Viscuso.
So we are here with Chris Langan, a friend of mine and a fantastic coach. He's going to be a great guest because you guys know I love coaching in the fire service and on the baseball diamond. And Chris is a baseball coach from Felician University. He's the head baseball coach since 2004. And just to talk a little bit about Chris before I officially welcome him on the show, he led the Golden Falcons to 12 Central Atlantic Collegiate Conference tournament berths and 2 championships, 5 conference and division regular season championships, 413 victories, unless this needs to be updated. 4 times CACC Coach of the Year in 2016, 17, 18, and 19. Coached 85 All-Conference, 34 All-Region, including 3 Regional Player of the Year, and 6 All-American honorees, and 22 of your former players signed professional contracts. Do I have all that right?
It sounds like I'm a lot better than that, I guess. But yeah, it sounds like it's pretty fair, pretty good. It's pretty accurate.
Well, that's awesome. And now, Chris, as I mentioned just a moment ago, first of all, thank you for coming on and welcome to the podcast.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. Anytime I get a chance to give back a little bit and have a chance to talk to someone, obviously like you, it's more than welcome. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, I know your heart's in the right place. I should actually start by saying this. When COVID hit early 2020, I was serving on the board of directors for Toms River East Little League, and I wanted to do something special for the kids because we didn't even know if we were going to have a season. And so I started reaching out to pro athletes and notable figures, motivational speakers, you name it, and trying to get them just to say a few encouraging words. You helped me get quite a few. And I appreciate that. And it just shows the type of person you are because, like you said, you like to give back. And I've seen that firsthand in more than one way. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, no doubt.
So you grew up in Keyport, New Jersey. I grew up in Kearney, New Jersey. It seems like they're opposite sides of the world when you're a kid, but they're actually very similar. But
right.
But to start this conversation, talk about just growing up in Keyport, what it was like. Was it a close community?
Yeah, well, actually, I grew up in Union Beach, which is obviously the neighboring town. But yeah, so many great fond memories of growing up in those 2 little towns. I went to high school in Keyport. Just that close knit community. Everybody in the area felt like extended family. Like you knew everything about everybody. They knew everything about you. It was just really awesome to see like just how people came together. It felt like one really big family. Like grammar school felt like my brothers and sisters. And then when high school came, obviously it just felt like some of the people you met when you were older, younger, they just, again, felt like an extended family. And it was really special. It just was. Sometimes I think, too many people knew too many things about you. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's led back to my adult life, obviously getting me an opportunity like this with Laura. Obviously she was a good friend in high school. And a lot of the guys and girls, and teammates, classmates, they became our, big fans of Felician and of Langan baseball and Langan sports. So, can't be just very appreciative of just that bond that was created in that small little town.
It's interesting. I think when I look back to when I grew up too, it seemed, and maybe because I don't live there anymore, but it seemed like Kearney was the same way. Everybody knew everybody. And like you said, maybe a little bit too much about everybody, but it had that family feel. Like when I became a firefighter in that town, I was going on calls, going to my friends' parents' houses all the time. It was like that feel, and that changes over the years. I don't know if my kids will ever have the kind of experience you and I had. And when you mentioned Laura a moment ago, for the listeners, Laura is my wife, and that's how you and I met through your connection with her and obviously our connection with baseball. But what attracted you to baseball to begin with?
My father and I have a twin brother, as you already mentioned. Every day was go get your glove. As soon as school's over, go get the glove, go get a bat. My dad would just throw balls at us. It felt like all day, and obviously I get a chance to now thank him on this podcast. So I appreciate that as well. But yeah, he was the guy. He was the one that really brought that passion and the life of this game to me. And I've been very, very fortunate, obviously, to still be around it and to teach it and coach it. I wouldn't even imagine my life right now without the game. And again, that's all due to my father's just his passion of it, and that little kid story of the dad with the ball and the glove, and you with the bat. It was great, and I thank him every day for it. I really do.
That's great. That's great that you have the opportunity to thank him. I'm in the same situation with my dad. I just saw a quote the other day, and I know I'll mess this up because I didn't memorize it, but it said something like 8-year-olds don't need showcase camps and specialty coaches. They need moms and dads that go out and play with them.
Yeah.
And as you know, that's something my wife and I do constantly. Matter of fact, my wife is actually at practice with the boys right now. I'm not there for 2 reasons. One is where I'm talking to you, and 2, slipped on the ice and just a few days ago, and I'm nursing a wound. But I want to talk about this first. I mean, the majority of my listeners are in emergency services, fire, police officers, EMS. Of course, I have a lot of coaches, a lot of people in business that listen as well, because I like to bring on people like yourself to just talk about life lessons in general. So to start on that topic, before we get into building teams and what we look for in team members, life lessons. When I was younger, I played baseball, but it wasn't my primary sport. Wrestling and rowing were my 2 primary sports. I played everything, football, soccer, you name it. As I'm older and coaching, I realized, man, baseball is so similar to life. And more importantly, it just teaches you how to overcome failure and adversity. Right. But I wanted to ask you what kind of life lessons you took away from the sport that you think have helped you now as a business owner, which we'll talk about, as a coach, and just in general.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it right away. I mean, in life, without any kind of a failure, there's really no success. That challenge from working from the ground up, from the bottom of the mountain to the top, climbing, just the commitment and the goals that you're setting, working, learning how to be a teammate and just, overcoming a lot of adversity and just that challenge, that everyday challenge and that grind of life. I think if you don't learn how to fail, there obviously will never be success. If everything's always handed to you, everything's always great for you, what do you do when you're challenged? You generally have no idea. You're backing into a corner, and you just can't handle it. And I think obviously with some failure, you just learn so much about yourself, how much you're willing to commit, and how much further you are, willing to push yourself when the going gets really tough. And I just think that's just one of the bigger things right there. And then obviously there's all the communication and learning trust, and there's a lot. I mean, baseball, like you just said, like I think about it so much and so often about just the spot that I'm in life, and I never really realized how important I guess it really is. Being a coach, being a mentor, you get to just deliver so many life lessons that you don't even realize. And it took me a really long time to kind of embrace that and understand it. But definitely, you see it every day. You just do. There's a challenge every day in life, right? And I think there's a thing I always live by. I used to always say, you want to dream it, you want to believe it, and you want to achieve it, right? And I think if you keep that in mind, and you have a lot of success, and you keep yourself motivated, and you keep yourself moving, you're not complacent. I think once you become stale, you die. That's just how life is.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I like that about dreaming it, believing it, and achieving it. And I want to kind of explore that a little bit more right now, because we talk about in baseball that success comes down to doing the basics over and over and over again. And quite honestly, it's the same thing with firefighting. The other day, somebody had said, and we say this a lot in baseball, baseball's a lot more fun when you're good at it. And that comes with practice, and you'll have more fun on the field. And I thought, you know what? Everything's a lot more fun when you're good at it, if you actually do the basics over and over and over again. There's a saying that I often say at my seminars, which is unused skills fade quickly. I have been to some of your Langan prospects practices, and my kids have had the privilege of going through this with some of the older kids that you guys trained. And I see you guys do the basics over and over and over and over again. And I want to ask you, do you feel that way? I mean, you coach at a much higher level than I did and probably ever will. Do you feel like it always comes down to the basics?
So I probably was coaching college baseball for at least 3 years as a head coach, not really knowing what I was doing. The late, great Fred Hill, Rutgers University, longtime coach, literally just said to me, he said, hey, you have a lot of passion for the game. You're at all these events. You got a lot of desire. He said, the one thing I think that you got to remember is you're going to keep it simple, and you always got to go back to the basics and remember, these guys know nothing. If you treat it that way, you'll start to see that you'll be able to build them back up. And take them to the next level. And it really is, like you just said, that's the start of every practice, whether it's been year 1 or year 18 for me. That's just what we do. It's from the simple little drills, because again, we're trying to form a foundation, and we want to create good habits rather than bad habits early. And again, that message stands loud and clear for a long time with me. And it's something I wish he was still here, but I could never thank Coach Hill for that simple message, because it's really, really, really led to a lot of great for me.
Well, you said that you start your practices that way with the basics.
Basics, yeah.
Now,
even every day practices, same thing. We start with a simple drill, working from the ground up, because I think a lot of baseball is about balance and, and understanding your body and the movements of your body. And yeah, we continue to do it in college as well. And sometimes I think it's maybe too dummied down, so to speak, but our guys just seem to really take it. They understand it. And then you can kind of work from there. You can build off that. So, again, keeping it simple works,
Yeah, keeping it simple does work. You call them athletes because they are athletes. In my industry, sometimes we throw around the terms combat athletes or industrial athletes, because here we are waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, throwing on 60 pounds of gear, running into a burning building. So we don't know when our games are planned, right? We don't know how long the games are going to be, and we don't know what we're heading into. So we have to be ready all the time. Because of that, we focus on training for the basics. But what I really, really stress throughout the country when I talk to firefighters is you have to put yourself in game situations too. You have to prepare for the speed of the game. And do you guys do that during your practices? Do you finish with scrimmages amongst your team members?
We'll do some live game type situations, so guys are ready for the moment, like you just said. Putting a man on third and maybe putting on a squeeze play, or just as a hitter trying to get the run home, or obviously I was a pitcher trying to make that perfect 2-strike pitch. So we try to just take them through every situation that can happen in the game, and you recreate it, and again make that challenging, just so when they do encounter it, they're not afraid of it. They're ready for it, and they're just and you can see it. You really do. You can see the guys be real comfortable in that big moment, and then that's when you have a good team, and that's when, as a coach, you feel like you did your best work. You make sure that they're prepared, and even if it feels boring and sounds boring, you got to do it. You got to keep going over those repetitive things. And I can't tell you how many times we work on just line drives to third, and the guy catches the ball and tags the runner, or steps on a base for forces, or just simple little things that you would assume everybody already knows, and just oftentimes they don't, and they forget because the moment gets too big. But you recreate the moment. I think they handle the moment well, and then that's when you're getting your best results.
Yeah, it's great you said that. One of the things that I do when I train my boys is I try to put them in that situation. For example, when I'm warming them up and now we're doing plays to first, and Frankie's a first baseman, I always make him finish the play at first by throwing home as if he's trying to get the runner out. And it's kind of funny when you see it, because my wife will be hitting balls to them, and maybe Nicholas will field it. He'll throw it to Frankie. Frankie will fire it to me at home base, and we'll do it over and over and over again. So one day I'm sitting down and I'm watching him play in an actual game. He's on first base. There's a runner on third. The ball is hit to third base. Runner checks, or the third baseman checks the runner. He throws it to Frankie, and of course the coach sends the runner at third. Frankie has to lay out for this. He has to stretch in a really awkward position. He's a lefty, so he's stretching. He has his arm out. He's laying on the ground, turns around, knowing that the runner was going, and just fires it home and gets him out. And when he does it, I had a couple of the coaches that have been coaching years longer than I have jump up and go, "That was awesome." One of them ran over to the field, called him over and high-fived him. And I sat here thinking, what's interesting is what they witnessed was something I've seen him do a couple hundred times during practice, but it looks like he's just a natural doing it because he practices the way we want him to play. I think it's so important that people understand this. And again, I'm not just talking about baseball. I'm talking about whatever you do. In my career as firefighter, whatever you do is to practice, so when that happens, you're ready to perform. And you've known many professional athletes, as do I, and we've seen that before, where they show up at that big game and they do perform. But let me talk to you about this question. What happens when you know somebody's capable of doing it, you know they can make that big play, but during that game, they don't make the play, and you could see that it affects them mentally to where now they're out of the game. And you've seen this. We've seen this with pro players. Chuck Knobloch years ago with the Yankees. He went through that stint where it seems like he was making errors a lot. What do you say to that kid if you bring him into the dugout? Do you say anything to him during the game, or is it after the game?
So I kind of like to approach it after the game. I think it's very obvious to everybody that there was a mistake made. Nobody's trying to make the mistake. It just happens. Why make the kid feel worse? And then, like you said, maybe take him down more in the dumps and really take him out of the game. Mentally. Once you're done mentally, we all know physically you're not going to perform. So, generally our post-game speeches are, hey, we won or whatever, it's a good game. We start to talk a little bit about some of the mistakes. And again, I think you just got to keep it positive. Hey, when this situation happens again, this is what we're thinking. And we all know that errors are going to happen and mistakes are going to be made. And you may make that mistake again, but the fact that we're just going to go over it again and let the guy know that you're still my guy. You're still everybody on this team still in your corner. Nobody's, that upset. It's one game. It's hard to go undefeated in any sport, right? I mean, obviously there's only been one professional team to do it in how many decades of sports now. So it's really, real hard to win every game. Obviously we just want the guys to realize again, you made a mistake. Here's what we need to try to do. What were you thinking in that moment? And sometimes their answers are, I froze, and that's generally what you get. Okay. So, we have to try to find a way to work around being that frozen, so we're still just in every pitch. You take one play off, the ball finds you, and generally, again, you hear that too from the guy. Like, I really didn't expect it to be me. It wasn't going to come to me. And, the game finds that guy that's sleeping, and just keep things positive. Though. I don't think you're going to keep hammering the guy because he made the mistake. I mean, I made plenty of mistakes too. I struck out looking. I threw balls away. I made errors. And I think I responded better by my coach kind of patting me on the back and saying, okay, like, hey, let's go. Find another way to help the team. And then we just deliver that same message. There's a lot of different ways to help a team win a baseball game. Obviously, you can lose it on one play, but, we're just going to try to keep on pointing out the positives and staying on that, staying in the positive moment.
I like how you said that also is what were you thinking in that moment? That's a question that I think many people in leadership positions fail to ask because somebody does something wrong. It's easy to react, to jump on them, especially in my industry. We're playing, it's life and death. It's not losing a baseball game. You can lose a life. Exactly. So somebody does something wrong. One of the best questions I've ever heard was a chief officer asked a firefighter, another officer who tactically did something incorrect. He said, "Why did it make sense for you to do it that way at that time?" And when he explained it, he actually had an answer that made sense at that time based on the information he had, based on what he knew he was capable of doing, the tools, the resources available. It did make sense, but hindsight's always 20/20. One of the things I love talking to coaches about, before I get into qualities of team members that you look for, I like to talk to coaches about the parent. Being a coach for as long as you have, I'm sure that you see the parents that maybe are too vocal during the game. And I don't mean criticizing you. I'm sure you see that too with the umpires. You've seen all of that, but criticizing their own kid. Do you see that to where you say, man, if they would just step away and let us do what we do and prepare them, this kid could be so much better off? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we try to do. We do try to prepare our guys, with like, maybe not obviously a parent screaming and yelling, but we put loud music on and hit balls, just try to make sure they're maintaining focus. And we just talk about the same stuff. Like, you're prepared. Like, you're going to go on the field. You're one of our 9 guys. You're ready to go. Like, we expect you to perform. You can handle all the situations that are going to be, put in front of you. And again, I think when you just keep on building them up, they kind of just block out all that negative. Like, they don't hear the other team talking their crap or, starting their chants. And you probably do block out some of the fans, and maybe if it is mom and dad. I just, that was something that never bothered me. I actually used to enjoy it. I thought it made me better, made me focus harder and want it more and wanted me to succeed that much more. I never got nervous. I didn't get scared. And I think, again, when the guys hear it from us and it's over and over, we all repeat the same kind of stuff. I think they buy in, they do. And I think then they get that extra sense of confidence. And I think that just helps them block it all out.
when you recruit an athlete, a baseball player to come play for you at Felician, obviously you want talent, but what are some of the things other than baseball talent? What are some of the things that you look for? Is it their work ethic, their attitude, how they deal with people? Do you check their social media? What are some of the things you do when you're looking for an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it all starts with hustle. If you're not a guy that's going to hustle and show effort, you're written off the list already. Obviously, once we kind of get past the hustle part, yeah, now we just see that you have pretty good skill set. You know, you throw well, you hit well, whatever. The next thing, obviously, I want to see is how you interact in the game with your teammates, your coaches, the umpires. You know, again, when you make a mistake, what's that kid do? It's really easy when everything's high and you're going 3 for 3 and you're making every play and your team's winning. But how do you handle the low? You know, the strikeout look and the bad call, the bad hop to hit you in the face, or, you know, the throw that maybe could have been picked and it wasn't. Then how do you handle that? And the guys that, you know, right away kick the dirt and they make the bad body language, that kind of right there starts to send a message, you know. Let's see now what that kid does after the game's over. I kind of watch that too. Does he go over, talk to mom and dad, give him a hug and a kiss, or is it right away a pout? You know, if you're a pouter, we kind of tend to stay away. So we are watching everything. Social media is huge because I think obviously they don't realize they're telling us the story. They're telling us exactly who they are. You know, you just look at what they're doing, look at the stuff that they're following. If that stuff generally trends in a negative direction, we're parting ways. We're not even going to continue the conversation. I don't care how great you are. We found that we've won with maybe less talent, but better people, you know, better character. And, you know, I think you got to take it all in. It's a hard process. Obviously, we don't get a lot of time to watch as much as you would think. You know, you're only allowed X amount of evaluations, and then you have to make a decision. But that's why it's important to then see them play a game. Bring mom and dad in, sit them down. Let's talk. Let's ask some questions. Let's get a chance to feel each other out. Like, I get to figure out what kind of upbringing you have. Is mom and dad, like, you know, just letting you do your own thing, or are they're going to be a little bit like we are, like giving you direction, and you're going to have, you know, a line drawn in the sand, and you're going to put your foot on the line, but you're not going to cross the line. So let's try to find out as much as we can about that person, because if it doesn't fit, then, you know, we're not going to continue the recruitment. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. You know, I was going to ask you what it takes to succeed as a collegiate athlete, and I think you mentioned that. And I rowed in college, and I can tell you, I've told this story before, but I was a starboard rower, and the varsity team needed one port rower. And that's like, I mean, you could relate that to playing baseball. It's like, you know, they wanted a lefty pitcher and I'm righty. And it's like, you just can't learn that overnight. But what I did was every day after practice, and our practices were early in the morning. It was like 5:30 in the morning. But after practice, I would go up to the boathouse. Everybody would go eat breakfast. And I would take this portable rowing machine and an oar with holes in it so I could set it up on the dock. And I taught myself how to row as a port rower. And I ended up actually earning that position. I had to challenge other guys for it and row against them. And we did a series of physical contests as well. But the fact that I learned how to row, later on, my coach told me that he saw me doing that. And that right there was giving me the edge over everybody else, because he said, this kid wants it. And I never forgot that. Not that I did that. I never forgot him saying that he was watching me from the shadows. And I had no idea that he was. You and I had just commented on something on social media a couple of days ago. I posted a video about Brandon Bullsworth. Now, he was they featured his story in the movie Greater that came out in 2016. And awesome. They bill him as possibly the greatest walk-on in the history of college football. Here's a guy that had scholarships to play football, but he wanted to play for the University of Arkansas, the Razorbacks. And so he walks on and ends up earning a scholarship, and then ends up becoming an All-American, and then ends up getting picked up by the Colts, and it has a tragic ending. Right. But when I watch that, I'm like, what coach wouldn't want a guy like that? And especially if you watch like real life interviews or a documentary about him, you see he seems like he was a great guy to begin with. Right. But do you see players come in that you think, man, like that work ethic is exactly what we need, and you almost sometimes wish you could transfer it to other people's bodies?
There's a lot of times you see it, and again, there's no it's not when the guys have that end of the year success and they garner all the accolades, you realize like those guys put in all the extra time, all that extra work in the weight room, all the extra time, and just kind of, again, like figuring out their craft, whether it be hitting or the pitching part. I always tell the story about the guy who obviously made it to the major leagues for us, Jerry Vasto. That kid's work ethic was second to none. Like, I've never seen a kid want it more, work harder, and just overcome a ton. Like, he wasn't a true pitcher. He was more of a thrower. He came from a small high school, obviously went to a really small college that nobody knew about. And he goes into pro baseball, and he's in the major leagues within like 2.5 years. I mean, unbelievable story.
I think I just saw his name today. Somebody posted something about him.
He just was invited to the Chicago Cubs Major League Spring Training. So
Great.
Obviously we're wishing Jerry lots of luck, but just that, like that guy right there, I just remember him coming in as this, not that he was out of shape, but he didn't have a body. Like, he wasn't a mature looking kid, and he transformed himself, and his work ethic is just, like I said, second to none. He wound up getting out of Felician with a master's degree and getting drafted. And then obviously, reaching the pinnacle of sports, becoming a pro athlete and a major leaguer and having success that way as well. It's just, him, there's so many guys like that come to mind. And everybody always says, oh, it was easy for him. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, I still just remember watching him in the weight room, first guy in, last guy out, like all the stupid cliches. That was Jerry Vasto. Like, he worked that hard and he got that reward, so it's just not a secret, that it's going to take a lot of hard work, right? Life's the same way. Nothing comes easy. Everything's going to be worked and has that price. So, it's crazy that people think differently and they try to cut corners. You can't cut corners in life.
Yeah. And when I was younger, I used to think, wow, people who are pro athletes they're naturally gifted, but it's not always the naturally gifted, talented player that makes it. It's, oftentimes maybe they're the ones that don't make it. They relied on their talent through high school, maybe even through college, but then everybody catches up to them through work ethic, many times anyway.
Right. Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. So we talk a little bit about individuals. We talk about the work ethic, the attitude, the effort. What about as a team in general? What makes a great team? If you were to sit down and identify, these are the 3, 4, 5, 6 things that we would want from a great team, what would be on that list?
Definitely the camaraderie of, the brotherhood, or just being teammates and everybody pulling in the same direction, and just guys that have a common goal and they're working really, really hard to achieve it. And again, same thing, going back to Jerry Vasto, some other guys that, have been in the program. Those guys on our team would never let a guy finish last. Like, they would just keep on pushing that guy. That's when you knew you were going to have a really good year. When the team started from day one getting kind of like cheery about running sprints or doing the stuff that you didn't want to do. They embraced it. They welcomed it. They challenged it. They loved it. When you kind of start to see that, just that bond form, there's no more of a special feeling. You're almost guaranteeing at the end of the year you're going to see a dog pile, and it's just it's really awesome feeling to see. You do see a lot of it's obviously prideful. It's just, for a coach, it's a great feeling. I still get goosebumps thinking about some of these groups, and right now I feel like I'm dealing with one this year. We have that kind of team that guys feel like they're brothers. They know, again, they know what everybody wants, and they're not going to let that guy, be outworked, and they're going to try to outwork them. And it's a great thing. And now, obviously, with all this crappy weather, they're still motivated to go out there and work real, real hard every day. It's so easy to make an excuse, right? Oh, it's the Northeast. Yeah. It's cold, bad weather. We don't have to work hard today. The other day I was trying to get them out a little early. We had a rough week of practice, a lot of conditioning. And guys were like, no, we got 10 more minutes. We always said 35 to 40. Every week we increased. We stopped early this week. We're not doing it. And they challenged me, so I had to challenge them again. And right then and there, I knew we're going to be headed for a pretty good year, as long as we do what we're supposed to keep doing and stay healthy. But I just think that coming together right away, that bond is, really where it starts, and you see it right away. You really do. There's no click. Everybody's just one cohesive unit.
I'm looking at my phone, because I saved this on my phone today. To your point, it's a picture of it looks like 2 volleyball players. I can't tell because they're on the sidelines, maybe basketball, but the way they're dressed looks like volleyball. And one of them's crouched down, two females. One of them's crouched down, and she just looks like something bad just happened. She's shaken up. The other one's looking down, crouching down. She's grabbing her hands, looking her in the eyes. And the caption is, "I will lend you my strength. until you can find your own. And I think what a great message. If you see the picture, I don't know if I can even show it. Who knows with copyright stuff. But when you see the picture, I look at that and I think, man, that's it. That's what it's about right there. And we talk to our players about this, the kids that I coach, about building each other up constantly. And even my boys, being my two youngest ones, they're brothers, just like you have a twin brother. I have a brother that's a few years older. What do brothers do? Well, every now and then brothers fight, right? And when my brothers do that, or my kids do that, I talk to them. I sit them down. Sometimes I just let them wrestle for a while because they end up laughing. But I'll sit them down and I'll say, let me just explain something to you guys. I said, you have to take care of each other. You have to be each other's biggest cheerleader. You have to really take care of each other to a point where sometimes you'll feel like it's you against the world. I said, but if you want to be successful on these teams that you play on, you need to be that way with your teammates too. And when you find that, that's where it all comes from. Because right now you guys are arguing over something with an iPad or something that really doesn't mean anything. But what really matters is that if somebody has a problem with one of you, they have to have a problem with both of you. That's what I want for my team. And I don't mean this in a physical confrontation problem way. What I'm saying is when someone shows up to play one of my teams, or when my firefighters show up to fight a fire, I want them to think we have this beat because of the way we were going to look after and take care of each other. It's that simple. And it's beautiful when you find it. And like you said, I think you know when you have it, don't you? You know when your team's fully developed and firing on all cylinders.
There's definitely a strong feeling for sure. And you just watch it. They really enjoy each other. There's no little nagging little fight at the end. There's no drama. Everything is, for the most part, but fun in a serious way. Like their tone is, let's get work accomplished. There's a challenge in front of us. Let's go meet it. And again, so at times they want to go above and beyond that. But certainly you feel it. I mean, after doing it long enough, you do. You really do.
If you could balance fun and work ethic at the same time, that's a perfect situation. It really is.
You're not kidding.
You mentioned drama. I heard Brandon Burchard. I hope I didn't butcher his last name, but I heard him say that drama is an indication that your team's not connected to meaningful goals, because teams that have goals and passion for their goals, they don't have time for drama, and that stuck with me because I thought any time that I've been a part of a team where drama started creeping in, it's because you were focused on the drama, not focused on what you were trying to accomplish as a team.
Right. Or more of like that selfish tone. Drama to me is a lot of times about, being selfish, like just worrying about the you and not the, the we. And then again, we're big about the we.
Yeah. And you see that even a lot in pro sports where you see somebody who is in it for themselves. I've seen it among some basketball players. You see it among some baseball players. There's even arguments of some people may not make it into the Hall of Fame, and people are questioning why, and some people are questioning, well, they weren't good teammates. I'm like, I don't know if that should be a factor in whether you make the Hall of Fame, but I will tell you that stuff carries. Yeah, I mean, when you get that label, you're not a good teammate. It's just not a good label to have.
No, it's really not.
What are your thoughts on unwritten rules, like a 3-0 count, bases loaded, and they say you should take the pitch instead of hit the home run like this guy did in the majors, and then everybody started beating him up on social media? What do you think about unwritten rules in baseball?
I mean, sometimes I think I let my guys swing 3-0. There's some unwritten rules. As far as I'm concerned, like if a guy slides into the second real hard and we're trying to send a message, obviously as the pitcher to the hitter, they're trying to throw the ball at the guy's back or his head. I was always taught you want to throw the ball like down at the knees. Like I think there's certain things in the game that need to keep the game the game. There's that, like you said, an unwritten rule that we're going to respect each other. You're never going to, basically hurt my teammate or be too showy. Because sometimes, obviously, those home runs and some of the antics that follow the home runs, I can't stand it. I wouldn't watch it. I mean, you're in the major leagues. You hit 500 home runs. You know what it feels like. You've done it more than once.
You don't need to flip the bat and eyeball the pitcher and do all that stuff.
Exactly. That guy made, maybe he threw a bad pitch, whatever. You hit a mistake. Just hit the baseball, run around the bases. You've been there before. There's no reason to, unless you won the World Series with it. Okay, great. Maybe that's a little different, but just act like you've been there before. Respect your teammate, respect your opponents. And again, the unwritten rule thing, I mean, I definitely let guys swing 3-0. If they were up a big score, I obviously wouldn't do it.
Right.
I think the same thing as far as like, I know it's an unwritten thing. You get a big lead, guys to fly ball in the outfield. Like, I don't like to advance bases, but how do I take away a guy from doing his job? Man's on third, infield's back, hits a fly ball to the outfield. It's 14-0 or 12-1. You got to score the run. You can't take away from that guy's, mindset of being a team player, getting the RBI in, getting that guy. You have to do it. You have to score the run. Pass ball, 14-0. I probably don't let my guy run. I got yelled at a couple times by other coaches for it, but I said, that's okay. Like, you can be mad at me, but at the end of the day, I'm making sure my guys understand that that's it. We're going to keep competing to get the outs, but we're not going to keep trying to score runs until you score some. So, thank God it's never bitten me in the butt, but I don't know. I guess it's a kind of a hard question to answer, but I've let my guys swing 3-0.
The whole you can't swing at 3-0 thing, to me, honestly, it makes no sense at all. Like, you should be. He's throwing a pitch. If he's going to put one right down the middle, then take it. I mean, don't take it. I mean, take the ball for a ride.
Yeah. I mean, go get it. Absolutely. I mean, so, what's the difference 3-0 and 2-0? I mean, really, is there a big difference?
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
So,
but I guess it's more about the score at that point. They were up big, right? It was like a 10-0 lead or something.
Yeah, I think it was. And there's always a little bit more to it. And you never know the backstories that lead up to stories that happen.
Exactly.
You said a great sentence. You said, act like you've been there before. And I just want to touch on that real quick, because my favorite touchdown celebration of all times was always Barry Sanders. Because here's a guy that every time he scored, he would he'd hand it to the ref. Yep. And I love it because he's saying, I've been here before, I'm going to be here again. I don't need to show off. And today I see everybody, it's all about the touchdown celebration. The teams get together and they all pose after a touchdown. I'm thinking, you're 0-6 as a team, but the picture is great. And I'm a New York Giants fan. I've been through this the past couple of years.
Yeah,
but in my field, so I want to talk to the firefighters that are listening to this podcast about this whole act like you've been there before. It's tough to act like you've been there before if you don't train to be there for those times it does happen. Like, the last thing we want is a firefighter turning a corner, seeing smoke and going, holy cow. And no, this is what you do. It's like the garbage man turning the corner and seeing garbage and being surprised. It's supposed to be there. That's what you're there for. Mm-hmm. So act like you've been there before is a great way to look at it, but you have to prepare for that. I want to end just by letting you know that, see, this backdrop that I have behind me is your facility that you just opened this week, Langan Sports. And if you don't mind, I'd like you to talk about where it's at and what you guys offer, so people know that they can take advantage of it if they want to.
Yeah, Langan Sports is it's about a 9,000 square foot facility, which you've already took a great picture of. That's the turfed area where teams that play lacrosse, soccer, football, obviously baseball, those teams can come in there. There's really no interference, so to speak. There's no, as you can see, no dividers like hanging in the middle. So you can kind of throw a baseball or a football or kick a soccer ball, lacrosse ball. You can do all those things freely. Really good wide open space to train in. The picture that you don't have shown is there's a batting cages in the back there with hack attack machines, which obviously are like pitching machines, but they can throw curve balls and they can actually show like a left-hand pitcher throwing the ball, running it away. So they have stuff like that obviously helps these guys get better and better every day. That's things we used at the college level. It's open pretty much from 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. Saturdays and Sundays, we're there all day. It's 8 in the morning, pretty much till 10 at night. We'll stay later if need be. Have a knowledgeable staff there. Obviously, my brother Steve is the main guy. He takes care of all of it. He'll welcome the phone call. He'll be very fair with rates. I think we all understand that, again, growing up in Union Beach, that wasn't a blue, it was more of a blue collar town. And I think we're going to remain blue collar people no matter what happens in life. So, there'll definitely be reasonable rates there. Amboy Road, Morganville, New Jersey. It's definitely a place I'd say go check out.
Chris Langan, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom and insight. Good luck this season, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing you real soon at practice.
I appreciate everything. Thanks for the opportunity. All the best. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.